commission liaison.
Kathy has the official title now of what? Commission liaison to library board or some such thing.
And discussing our meeting last night, I was wondering, am I an official voice of the commission to this board?
You're gonna have to ask Doug. Yeah, that's a really good question, Kathy. I think at the moment you're just gonna official person to listen because we're not making any decisions. Yeah.
For what it's worth, I was there when you, and I think you're a liaison, which is a communication channel with as little Doug request, as little bias as you can possibly imagine in terms of your personal opinion. So that was my impression.
Yeah. Before you went to bed.
Might I suggest that we skip right to number 4?
Okay. I was going to say.
And I will let Becca introduce herself, but we have Becca here from Thomas Hacker and Associates Architect, and she will be explaining what we've been working on.
Okay.
You can go closer to, for sure.
Okay.
Even if it is on.
For those of you who came in late, in order to see her presentation, the little knob down in the left corner,
I'll double check on that.
you click it to presentation, and there it is.
It's its own presentation.
No, push it again.
Push it in.
That's what I said too.
We're still getting the technology.
Okay, I'll say that.
We haven't had this fun yet. But you can do the microphone or whatever. I think it's on.
It bends easily.
Yeah, come closer.
Okay, so, I'm a CHA architect, formerly Thomas Hacker architect.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay, but we're all going to be CHA architecture. Hopefully you'll be seeing with me, also my teammates, Lisa Jurgens, principal of CHA, and David Partner, also a principal. Casey is principal in charge of this small effort, David is designer, and myself as project manager. And as I think you're aware, CHA has helped develop a conceptual program, and once the site has been established for review, we will then study that program on the various sites to help you understand which ones may be more viable. And is that reasonable? Okay. So just to give you a little background about our firm, if you don't know, I want to show you a few slides to little background on why we're on board, and then just jump very quickly into a quick study that we've already done that's going to help launch into this type of investigation for you. So, you may know some of these projects. We've done libraries up and down the coast. Beaverton Library is over 10 years old now, and is one of the larger libraries. This is a 2-story library. I forget the area.
68,000 feet.
Who knows? And it's in the city trees, therefore it is county tree. Woodstock Library is one of the Multnomah County large libraries. That is the renovations and new branches in Multnomah County that was established in 1907. And I actually joined the firm specifically to work on these projects and have been working on libraries over the years since. Woodstock Branch Library in Southeast Portland is one of the branches closest to you here. It's a 6,000 square foot library on a flat lot and have on-site parking. We did, as I mentioned, historic renovations as well. On the top, we had this Belmont Branch Library, also in Southeast, that's in Southeast Portland, both now Devers and Belmont. The reading room you see in the central spot is actually the North Portland Branch Library. That's on Shuttleworth, and that construction shot you see below is one of our favorite shots of that library. It was basically skinned from the inside and then lined with concrete, and pieced back together again. And then on the lower corner, that is one of the TI, tenant fit out of a building that is owned by someone else. The Multnomah County chose to do several of those. This one is the Northwest Branch in what was a wine cell.
Across the street from a really good bakery. Yeah.
This is in California. We have several libraries in California. The city of Alameda, which is a small island community right next to San Francisco, it's between San Francisco and Oakland. A larger project that is 75,000 square feet onto the build. And so you find that is about the break-even point where a two-story library makes sense. One of the things that
That's for footage again.
so, well, it's over 25,000 square feet. I think it becomes more like 40,000 square feet. I can check that.
You're saying that 40,000 is where you should go to 2 stories.
25 plus, and that's about a great point. Yeah. And it's from the top of the coach. Very much so. This is an historic community, and we push very hard for the historic parents on the outside. The barrel rolls on the interior actually reference to the local shipbuilding industry. There's some more images from the inside, showing stacks on the lower level, and then the children's area on the top there with the red shed. It's a dedicated children's area with the colours and so on, and a great community room for larger story hours and so on. And then on the lower level there, a homework centre that also doubles as a computer drop-in centre when it's not used as homework or other scheduled events and instruction and so on. So it's a pretty flexible library. It has a nice courtyard space, and it also has on-site parking as well as on-street parking connected to it. We have had the pleasure of doing several libraries in San Francisco. This is the most historic library west of Portal, and I did some of the planning work for this project. It was finished about 18 months ago. We had another project that just finished, a renovation of the 1960s or 50s era building Parkside, and a new one is going into construction. West Portal is this beautiful mission-style building, and this is very much a renovation approach. It doesn't have any on-site parking, it has delivery, and it had a small addition added to it to make it ADA accessible. Universal access and wheelchair accessibility are major drivers in public buildings today, and you can see that this building has this beautiful stair up to the front door, and all of the main reading rooms are on that upper level, and so I'm not showing this photograph, but carefully we've woven in alongside it is a new addition, an accessible entries and elevator that brings people up to the main level. So, one of my I really love this library. Hillsdale Park Library is again one of the Multnomah County projects. It's the last building of that bond levy. A new building and replacement of the existing library, which was a mid-century piece on the same site. They went through an extensive site selection process and public outreach process to identify that the site of the existing library was the appropriate site of the new library. Lots of public input, very involved in it to come to this conclusion. This building actually has parking underneath it, structured parking underneath it, and occupies its entire site with the exception of the loading area and a tree that was very important to the neighborhood. The biggest maple, not a special tree in a species sense, but in an emotional sense, very important to retain the fact of this project. So this is a one-level public library with parking underneath. It does have an elevator to access that parking, and I believe it's about 10,000 square foot, or maybe a little bit of that. And I believe this is the Daisy Library back in San Francisco, and I'm sorry, I'm jumping around. This is like a rental, if you see it. A photograph of this library just about to break ground, and is in a historically black neighborhood in San Francisco. And again, this is a replacement of an existing library that has very positive and negative connotations to this community. It's a bit of a fortress on a difficult corner, and this library is opening itself up more to this community. And it's strapped to just protection. It has an interior courtyard that's at the sketch you see it in the corner. Oh, and sorry, one name of Glasgow, City of Glasgow. We are in the middle of design for a new library for them that is in many ways very similar to what you're hoping to do here in Glasgow. They had a site that already before they hired us. That is a large site, park-like site, plenty of rental parking and building and future expansion. So in that way it differs. The similarities are 18,000 square foot library, so close to what you're likely to be able to build in your first efforts here, and it is being planned for future extension. So that kind of approach to first phase, group plan, second phase, two public meetings. We are in what's called design development, which is the middle of our design efforts. And this is being taken out to the public, and it will be taken to the planning commission. So we're actually hoping to get that submission next week, and we'll be in April in front of the planning commission to ask for approval of this design and to complete this development, hoping to start construction in probably October this year on this project. And that's just an interior renderings. But we just did in-house. These are fairly simple for us to produce these days with the technology that we have at hand, quick to do, and we just throw in a few people from a program called Entourage. It was in the New York Times recently for the latest photograph for each time populate them to take a look and help communicate their ideas with, in our case, our design community, but also going out to the public, a great way to explain to them what's going on. Should we go straight into design program?
I don't know if it's your program or ours, but we have a thing in the middle that says out of range, do not operate at this resolution, and it's obscuring some of the information.
It's a technical problem.
Yeah, my screen's okay, and screen behind you.
That's probably what's happening. It's configured properly for this screen, but it's the resolution's wrong. It is.
It's just the way I would ask it. So there's info there. And that's some of the pictures too. Well, no, you could go ahead, but I just.
Long for stop on the Gladstone project. Is that the newspaper article linked the Happy Valley Library in with the Gladstone project? Is that yours too, the Happy Valley?
No, we're not working on Happy Valley. I think the newspaper article linked a little bit of funding the stuff through the platform today.
Okay, that's not. Okay. Where's the site for this?
It's at the intersection of Oakville and West, which is
North?
It's north of downtown.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, it's even more exciting. You just go with somebody.
You know what? I thought I was turning on the computer. So my apologies.
Okay, we have don't push those buttons.
The orange citizen button?
There's something
That
that can
one?
be done for that?
Yeah.
You know, the response we got.
Where's the orange citizen button? We have one here too? The only over there?
Yeah, they're doing
I don't know.
I don't know where it is even.
Underneath.
It's typically difficult to find, but somebody found one.
Little SWAT.
Yes, I would.
Yes. It's like, you
This is really
know,
serious. Not Just to figure out who these are.
Historically, 18,000 square feet, I think plans for about 10,000 square feet addition will also be on that single story. It's on it looks flat, and it's actually, everything's familiar with the size of the library. It's very steeply sloping site, it has a lot of natural forest on it, so it is second growth, but it has a native oak savanna on it also. And so the top area where the parking is growing is woven into those savannas, that's prairie grasses and Oregon oaks, mark oaks. And we're trying to preserve as many of those as we can, although it's still on the side, so it's kind of tricky. And then the building is at the edge of where the stock and drops out. It's in the middle of the site. There's some odd issues of property, site access, and also private ownership. There's an issue that's sort of private property that approaches some sort of ownership of the city.
So is all the access going to be off Webster?
Yeah.
Okay.
because they can't
There'll
see
be
it.
the trail already, right, that's
Mhm.
on top of the property, and that's going to be maintained in time.
It's not a fatal error.
And we're going to add another trail gradually.
Because we're gonna, David Knoll's gonna have to come in and fix it on this laptop if we fix what's going on.
It'll just take me a second, actually, I can do the presentation.
Okay, great.
Okay. It's a little high
Oh,
for
you
those
can do it,
monitors,
David,
so
that's fine. Good.
it's taking me a minute.
Let's see if I can learn something here.
I need her at my house to run my.
Well, it's not her, it's not her, this is the city thing that they're using for that. They keep all the stuff off of it. Yeah, oh, yeah, she's not on there. Don't they have like a thing for that? Clean icons occasionally?
Oh, that much more attractive building.
Oh, good. Hey, Kelly.
Look at that, we even got it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much, Kelly.
Well, that's much better.
Yeah. Hey, you can go home now, we promise.
Did you want to review any of the projects, or should we just jump straight into
No, keep going.
We saw most of the buildings.
Yeah.
Just when you come to the words, we were lost.
Okay, so the words. So, what we have done is we've taken 20,000 square feet as our target. This is just sort of almost a theoretical exercise, just to try and understand spaces that might make up a building of that size. We've looked at your collection, working with Mo on that. We've looked at various library programs, and very specifically the Gladstone program, because it's a similar size, and checked with Mo on various issues. And this is just a proposed organization of spaces. I'm going to use my mouse. See if it's possible. Can you see my little arrows? Okay. So starting up here, this is the building. We've got a building program and then a site program here. And the building program is looking at a series of spaces in the building, starting with an entry lobby, which would be bigger than 80 square feet. That's this area that we would need to put public notices and so on, so the kind of you really need in a library. And then the public library spaces, this is sort of the public rooms of the library, just sort of simply organized the service desk, self-chat, the adult collection and seating areas. And adult computing as a specific piece, because that's a pretty significant component of the library. And the children's library, this includes all of the children's computers, seating, story areas, and so on, and copiers. And you can see here the various numbers for that adding up to a little over 11,000 square feet. And then we have the community room, which is sized for 75 people, I think. And it would have storage, so the support space would be a small kitchenette and storage for flexible furniture, so you probably want extra chairs so you can set it up for auditorium seating and so on. And then the staff workspaces are the workroom, private offices, and so on. And then we get what we call total assignable building area. That is the area of the building that is really used for specific functions. And you apply to that number a net to gross multiplier. So we basically, these are all the spaces of the rooms. It's like taking this room and saying, okay, the area of this room is about 1,200 square feet, and then you add a multiplier for your exterior walls, for a small support space or something like that, storage. And so what's in this net gross area are your mechanical rooms, your electrical rooms, your restrooms, your walls, and so on. Libraries are actually very, very efficient. A typical higher ed building be about 60 or 65% efficient. A lab building might be as low as 50% efficient, but a library, because you use almost all the space for books and seats and so on, is a 75 or greater efficiency. So that gets us right around that 20,000 square foot target. And then we did a similar exercise with the site, and actually we looked at it in two different ways. One was really kind of going through an analysis of how many parking spaces we would need, and allow for buses, allow for loading, and so on, allow for bike parking. And then we also looked at it based on some other projects that we have, and came to this number as a really good kind of placeholder. With 20,000 square foot library, you'll need a little bit more than that again for your parking. Two of these add up to just 42,000 square feet, which is just a hair less than an acre. And that's for a library that just about holds the collection that you have now. It is not based on the Oregon standards large enough for your service population. So as we're looking at site selection, you can obviously, if you think you're going to really in the future want to have 50% more library, a 30,000 square foot library, you should just add another 10,000 square foot or thereabouts to your site area, add the two together, and that will give you your 1.5 acre site that you might want for that. Thinking again that it's only when you get to about the 25,000 to 30,000 square foot library that you would even consider going to 2 stories. When you go to 2 stories, various things happen. The way that you staff that library changes. You have accessibility issues, you have to introduce an elevation to the project, and staff that project, so your efficiency of your floor plate becomes less. And just so you're aware, to think about building a library and in the future adding on top of it, because oftentimes people think that might be a good way to do it, that almost never works. You don't know when your future addition might happen, and building codes change very quickly. And so by the time you can afford to build your addition, what we found is quite likely often the case that the structure of the building is no longer adequate to support the addition that you need to bring on top of it. So as you look at sites, I would strongly recommend that you look at a single level. A 30,000 square foot library, if that is what you're looking for in the long term, would be wonderful on a single level, would be great on 2 levels, but if you're going to build it, you should really rebuild it at the beginning as a 2-story library, rather than come back and try and add to it as a 2-story library.
So you could go to 30,000 without going to a second story.
You can, it would actually be a terrific library. But you could also build a 30,000 now as a 2-story library, and depending on how your staff would your manager wants to manage it, it could be viable. But you think about library, the simple functions of libraries where you're moving books and reshelving them. Of course, if libraries house books in the future is a question right now. But assuming the books are stock and trade and will remain that way and they're still circulating, you need to get them back on those shelves. So you have book trucks, you have pages, you have to get them, you're moving things in and out, as well as your patrons, moving them in and out and dealing with security, accessibility issues. I imagine that quite a lot of your patrons are elderly. Some of them probably use wheelchairs already or are walking assisted, and it's harder for people to navigate a 2-story building. You also begin to run into issues with the community room, or suite of community rooms, if that's your aspiration. Those are rooms that you would often want to have available to the public after hours when the library itself is closed. And so they naturally want to be on the floor that you enter the library. And that is the main floor. And if you have a 2-story library, you find that those rooms dominate the ground floor. The main rooms are on the top floor. And personally, to me, Beecham Library is a good example of library that suffers this main floor. The entry floor isn't its main floor. Its main floor is the upstairs. You go through a beautiful entrance, and you navigate the more compressed, more compartmentalized ground floor to get to this big showcase top floor. And it's compromised because of that. So personally, I think that if you can, a single-story library is a better library for many reasons.
Could you go back to the Gladstone Library just to point out to them what they're thinking of doing, just as the community
I
room?
didn't bring the floor plan,
Oh,
but I might have it on the thumb drive. Let me just look and see if I have it on the same drive.
Yeah, you got to see any trade secrets. You are secrecy.
Put your hand over the camera.
This is the Glasgow presentation that I have here, but it's actually a little older. Let's just see where they're at.
This is the other design.
Yeah, but this is the other design. I can just take it back to one of those.
The initial design, right?
Yeah, this is the second to last design. It's a very linear scheme, and actually, as a result of this meeting that we were at, we changed it into an L-shaped scheme, kind of like this. By coming back to this is an earlier concept here that was kind of had this sort of inset entrance here. This had various things not working for it, so we tried to resolve it by doing this. And the community room suffered because it ended up with this strange hallway. So now the community room is back in this position with the bathrooms next to it, which you want to do, so that you have a suite that works after hours, and this is the entrance into that suite. So it's just kind of becoming a little squished up again. Anyway, the way that this project works is the service desk is here. This area here is your adult area with the teens here. Teens tend towards the adults rather than the kids, but they want their own space a little bit. And then this is the children's area here, with a central area that's considered sort of the living room of the library, probably where new books will go, but also where the Oregon history collection will go. And I know that you have a history collection also here. There'll be a fireplace in this position. But the expansion scheme for this project is actually very similar to the current thinking, which is it will plug in here and here. It would be like a donut. You create a set of spaces here that would enclose an outdoor courtyard. And that fireplace here still focuses onto an outdoor space, and you just expand in this zone. So the expansion spaces that you plan for libraries are always very site-specific. This is an unusual site because it has topography challenges and these sort of various, even though it's a big site, it's amazing how constrained it is about where you might push an addition. And you can see, and this is so long, this is 300 feet long, that continuing that, just continue to push it out, you get beyond a football field at that point. It doesn't make any sense. So we wanted to compress it with the addition. And that's the approach.
Thank you for,
Thank you.
When you get into long spaces like this at Huntington and stores, it's preferable to me to have an elevator rather than have a storage you're going to be walking.
Yes, I think that it is so long that I can understand what you're saying. This library is 18,000 square feet, and it's really not possible to staff a library of that size effectively. You just don't have the staff available to make sure that people fit. Strange things happen in libraries, so I'm sure we'll really good lines of sight. And you need to have sort of strong security as well as a sense of openness and welcome. So this L shape that we've resolved to is much more effective, and it reduces that sense. I agree. This is. I'm glad that it's no longer this long. It felt a little much. Self-test. We tend to push ideas, and this is a very strong response to the site. And our design committee is a wonderful committee, and they just weren't quite sure, and so we went away and tweaked it, and now everybody's very comfortable with it. So, should we talk about your project?
so just see where that gray stuff is, that's the L that pops out,
Yeah,
as
this
the
is the
community
L.
room there.
Yeah,
And it really gives I think, a nice focus to the entry as well, as making the community room an independent space that can be used after hours, which is a neat concept.
it indicates the entrance. One of the issues we have a long building, where's the front door becomes a very significant question.
Yes.
And so it also welcomes, gathers people, it shelters people as well. So it would be.
I had a question on earlier when you were doing the specifics and also here. Given the fact that just one of the projects we were talking about earlier attracted 100 people to a concert, is a 75-person capacity big enough for a community room in a city this size?
Well, what the charge that I gave to THA was that we could currently afford about a 20,000 square foot building. So to figure out within that space what we could come up with, and that's why Becca has used those figures. We probably could use more, but if that's all that we can build, what would we take away from them? That's what we're going to have to make those decisions, those hard decisions. So that's why we kind of started there, and this is just the starting point, to kind of, for us to get real some good
The second
consensus.
part of the question is capacity varies whether you're an audience or you're having tables where it's set up for an event.
The 75-person capacity is based on sort of thinking that you have here right now.
Okay.
And we would have training tables that you could set up with full range and covered, and then you have fewer people that are different sort of environment. And as I said, it's a trade-off. If you want and need a large community room, but the library still has to be 20,000 square feet, you have to decide what gets more than just support that.
And I also was making the assumption when you go back that the children's library at 3750 includes juvenile, because when you were talking about Gladstone.
Yes.
So is anything under 18?
The teen collection, that age range, preteens read teen books, right? That is included in the adult collection as shown here. Children's is distinctly separate. It's the board books, the easy readers, the juveniles, but not the teen collection. And where you put your graphic novels is entirely up to
You get to decide that.
How does the space layout compare to what you had at Danielson's?
Danielson's had 13,000 square feet.
I'm just going to pop on to the next slide because we begin to look at this now graphically. I think I have 3 more slides. So this is taking the building piece of this program. and it's showing you just graphically the relative sizes of those pieces. And they're all, this is really a sort of bubble diagram that's scalable. Each of these actually, this represents 2,400 square feet of seating areas. And they're arranged in a way that isn't supposed to imply a building, but you can begin to understand the relative relationships of things. So staff workspaces, this would ideally, as you begin to get technical, include a book return that would be directly connected to your entrance, which right now is shown all the way over here. So really your blue needs to be next to your public lobby, but these are all the spaces that make up a building. And then that big bubble that's all around it, that's the whole building size. So this 75% issue, the colors here represent 75% of the total area of this big square. And that's the diagram of the spaces that make up the building.
Can I ask one more question?
Yeah.
And the Carnegie is how many square feet?
It's less than 6,000 square feet.
Tiny.
With not very good efficiency of space.
Well, it's one of these blocks. About.
Yeah, the Carnegie is is that Nephagros,
I don't.
Yeah. Gross. Oh my gosh, so it's actually about this much space,
Well, when we get
probably.
to the selling part, have it overlay. This is Carnegie.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, that'd be easy to do.
Non-well.
Okay, so then this is the site. You think it's slightly bigger. There's no efficiency factor here. It's all hardscape, and these are just the four components that we're summarizing to make it up. And then the next slide shows the two together. So I've actually this is the size of all these four components here, and then here's the building. So this just gives you an idea of the sort of overall space, that half and half basically building and site ratio that we'll be studying as you guys identify which sites you want us to look at. Oh my gosh.
4 per 1,000 square feet or something.
Well, I think it was 1 plus 300 square feet. And then one for every 2 staff members, and so we kind of figured out what that staff member means. And this is your city municipal code. As actually, the city planner looked at the various criteria that we sent and agreed that this was the right approach. So I'm sorry I have that on the tip of my tongue. And the landscaping that we have in there is, these days when you make sites, you have to buffer the edges of the sites. Landscaping, you have to have landscaping inside. In terms of sustainability, you probably want to have bioswales like that you have in your parking lot here to manage and filter stormwater and so on. So there's an allowance for that here as well to ensure that you we're pretty comfortable. This is about the right ratio of space, and we can start looking at this, applying this to the sites. Obviously, if you want us to look at sites that are less than an acre or
These rooms is great.
Yeah.
There you go.
Do they if we start having to look at 2-story libraries, the efficiency will become less because of the stair and elevator issues, so that you're aware. So you have smaller footprints, but there's a little bit more going on each level. So, any questions?
Could the public area, the meeting area, could it be part of the landscaping too, like some kind of open door that could open up the patio?
That's a really lovely way to do it.
Yeah.
And definitely at Gladstone, that's part of what we've been trying to do. Here we have this allowance for calling it plaza, which could be an entry plaza if you have a very civic corner. But if you're in a more suburban area, that really could be within the site, and it could be associated with your community room, and it could be an outdoor classroom. You have summer reading programs, you have community events, and you may even have weddings in this library, and so it's pretty great to have that kind of relationship.
Nice idea. So potentially, this is just conceptually, if we had a building built into something that backed up to some kind of green space, then you could open up to that potentially if the layout worked out right and enjoy some of that green space or a view or something like that.
One to be able to borrow those sorts of moments. Yeah. The more urban your site, the more we would encourage you to think about making interior courtyards or introspective spaces of some kind, to look at buffering, to
depending on how busy the students are and so on.
Eugene Public Library has a lovely outdoor children's garden. That is really nice, though, because it kind of softens the whole block as well.
I didn't include the Sherwood Library here, but we did do the library for Sherwood, which is next to a railroad, which is fascinating. And it has a children's courtyard.
Might behoove us to look at that. Yeah. Yeah. Right. Oh, I'm thinking we did. That's all right. Yeah, we'll talk about that in a bit. Yeah. So other questions, Becca? We'll see her again. Just remember, this is like not our architect for the whole project or anything like that, so don't go spreading any rumors. But these guys are, contracted for a limited thing to help us get the best information we can as we recommend a site to the city commission, so that we have something in mind as we really look at each site when we get to that point.
Becca, I don't know very much about architecture, though I'm interested. And when we would expand, aren't a lot of these areas going to be expanding too? So do you realign the interior space, or do you put a particular addition right on one? Because I could see if you have a bigger library building that you might need more staff and you need more staff workspace, or if you're going to do a bigger young adult collection, or if you're going to do something else. So
it's absolutely true. So it depends again on the site. But as you consider expansion, you should consider how you would expand. So, for example, here for the workroom for Gladstone, this is the book return, and Gladstone is hoping to. They would like to have RFID in the future, radio frequency identification for their books, rather than barcode. And eventually, you will have that. All libraries will eventually have that, provided they still have books, I guess.
No matter what they're called, they just need to
you can check that out. And so this is actually sized for the future library. So it's big enough now. So it's actually will probably be barcode when it opens. This room is big enough to house the RFID when they do convert, and it will be big enough to house the RFID for the full-size library. So that kind of planning is important. And then as this library does expand, this bay here, the yellow, will become blue, probably, although it could expand this way as well. The meeting room is, you can see here, it's a storytelling terrace, so that is one of those sort of outdoor spaces for the community room. Now that we're L-shaped, it's in a different position, but that storytelling terrace is still there, and that is the expansion space for the community room. It's an outward expansion, but you do have to really kind of consider that planning in the future. Now, definitely a trend that we're seeing in libraries is that the furniture libraries are becoming less permanent and more movable, more furniture-based. The shelving is always movable, although the tall shelves have to be bolted down for seismic earthquake reasons. But it's really because wireless now is ubiquitous. You want to provide lots of power for laptops, but you're not as sort of fixed and wired as you were 10 years ago with data. And so, provided you have lots of power available, you can have furniture rather than permanent pieces and moving around. So that gives you more short-term and long-term flexibility about changing how spaces function, and that supports future expansion as well. So you will always, as you expand, be tearing down things that you make, but you can plan to do it so it's minimally invasive.
Thank you.
Other questions? While we have everybody gathered, you guys all know Matt Newstrom, right? Okay. We probably should talk about next steps. And after our closed session meeting that we had last month, which Phil, you weren't here at, so we'll get you up to speed on that. Brad and Kathy and David Frazier were both able to review all of that material with Matt and his partner Dave in between that happening. So we feel really accomplished that we got a lot done. And so what was able to happen is that Matt was able to go ahead and send out the proposals to the properties that we decided we wanted more information on. And remembering, this does not exclude anything. These are just, at this point in time, the things that we decided most were worthy of future, more exploration in our time and resources. So once that information comes back in, which you think will be towards the end of March, what we can do is get back together again and review all that material. And I think that THA may have some more information for us at that point too. So what I would like to consider doing is having a special interim meeting that would probably be mostly an executive session because we'd be talking about real estate again. And I was thinking about the 5th Wednesday in March because there's 5 Wednesdays this month. And since Wednesday tends to work for this group, would that work for everybody?
The 30th.
30th?
Does it work for you?
I'm in town and I'm available and
4:30.
4:30, is that time work still for people? I know it's hard for everybody to get here right at 4:30, but you guys do an awesome job. Huh?
On the 30th.
On the 30th. So March 30th.
Is it supposed to be CIP record review?
Is it?
And you can be ready by the 21st.
You want to move it up? The 21st is what day?
First, a Monday.
It's what?
It's a Monday.
It's a Monday?
23rd would be Wednesday.
School vacation week, you'll be gone. I'll be here. I will have absolutely no opportunity to, I'll be gone all this week, so I won't have much time to, we have meetings on,
What
the
about,
foundation meeting on
what about
the 23rd.
Monday the 28th? Is anything on that?
Yeah.
What time is the other meeting that you're talking about?
Oh, okay.
And if it's just a review, then how long is it going to last? It'll be forever.
Several hours.
Yeah, it's gonna be
Yeah.
a process.
And I'd be up for that too.
Have fun. And, what about the 28th then? Does that work for everybody else except for Laura?
At same time, 4:30?
Yeah.
28th
I was
Monday.
thinking I was looking to go to that night.
I feel like it's really important to have our
Yeah.
community on there, is that?
I was open until now, so.
No.
I mean, what about the Thursday, the 24th?
It's okay with me.
No?
I'm also.
Is it just the 28th? Right. What does that mean?
What happened if we did it about 5 o'clock? Does that help?
What if we move it back? Oh, that would be fine.
Okay.
I would probably actually make it easier on like Brian and Kathy and with that.
So 5 o'clock on the 28th?
Does that work for you guys? Okay. That's fine.
Where are you gonna have
Sure,
that?
of course. Okay.
How long is that you're gonna have it because the, planning commission's that night?
Okay. Well, we may want to have it somewhere else where, because if it's mostly executive
Right.
session, in fact, that's the only reason we're having it.
You let us know.
Yeah, I'll let you guys know. So, that would be really good because then we could have our regular meeting in April and, still discuss business or anything else, but this would like really, would really help a lot. Thanks. Everybody, I'll send out a thing.
So this is 28 to 5?
Yeah, we'll make it at 5, exactly. I don't want Becca to get away without at least discussing that a little bit. Right. Yeah, we'll go and we'll get her here sooner or later for sure. Thank you so much. Really interesting information.
We'll be seeing you again.
Thank you for the presentation.
Yes. And I'm wondering, could you send me those slides electronically? That'd be perfect. Yeah, thank you. Pardon? Yeah, just email it to me. Yeah, that'll be fine. Okay. Thanks a lot. Yeah, we'll talk. Okay.
Okay, how do we get off the presentation?
I didn't.
How do you get off the presentation? How everybody?
Go ahead, hit your
Toggle
button.
back to back. I didn't use enough strength. Oh, this is,
You can, you don't.
okay. Shall we go back
No,
to
you don't
the,
need to go. You don't have to hang out. And Kathy, we're just going into regular business now, so I mean, obviously, you're welcome to stay and learn all the dirt on us, but. Okay, meeting tonight, okay, good. Okay, well, thank you so much for coming. Okay, I'll be back.
okay, so we will go back then to approval of library board minutes.
Those should be up on your thing, they're online anyway, do I have to do them for you guys to see them?
How do you do it?
You press document first.
Highlight your date and then hit press document.
You guys have trouble with these things.
We only use it once in a while.
Yeah, at least you get more practice with it than they do. Every month it's a new, it's like new again. But for me, over here it is, that's okay. Thank you very much. Alright, so, I'm not in charge anymore, Terry's in charge now.
Okay.
You're doing so well.
Have you got it so you're all reviewing the minutes relatively quickly and your memories are wonderful, and I'm open to a motion to approve once somebody has read and reviewed them, since Brian and I weren't here?
I make a motion to approve the February 9th.
Okay.
I need to approve that, January one, so.
We didn't approve those before.
No, January 12th that we're approving right now.
I'll move that we approve the January 12th minutes as presented.
So,
Okay. All in favor?
Alright,
Okay.
we vote on the same too?
On the February one, that's where we went into executive session, so it's completely brief. And by the way, it says agenda on that. I already fixed that, so you don't need to tell me to fix that.
so my motion still stands, if anyone wants to second it.
It's really a hard one to do, so I heard a motion from Claire to approve the really brief meeting minutes of Wednesday, February 9th. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Laura just already did that.
Okay.
Okay.
All in favor, say aye. Okay, so those minutes are approved, so we can close those. And citizen comments on issues and items not on the agenda. We lost our citizens, so we can go down to, and we've completed presentation of library facilities. So, Mo, you're on. Library director report.
Okay, I don't think I sent you guys statistics, right?
No.
And I really apologize because it's been, the last few months I've kind of forgotten, what's my routine? What do I send ahead of time? What do I not, completely fall apart. I will try to get you more information, earlier. These are 2 pages. We'll take the 2 pages, please. So, let me just look at my copy. What we noticed when we were looking at these in the Friends meeting is that I missed getting the self-check transactions, so I'm sorry about that. I don't have a figure for you, and I will add that back in. But what is good is that for some reason, our circulation rate in February was really nice and high. We were really busy, and so it's at 81% of what we did in the Hilltop last year in February. So we were trying to remember if it was like a big snowstorm going on last February or whatever, that maybe it was a little bit lower. But anyway, the circulation in February was very, very high. The other thing that you will notice at the close to the bottom of the page is that for the first time, we actually have a young adult program. And, we have the teen advisory board now, and it has basically the same 5 members that come every month, but you know what, that's a start. And they decided they wanted to have a board game night, and so they had a board game night, and just the 5 of them came, but they all had a great time. And so, it's a start. It's a start on recruiting and getting that age group more interested in what goes on at the library. So we felt really good about that.
Plus, Maureen, anytime you build relationships, it makes working together easier.
definitely. And it gives those library staff that are working on that, it gives them a really fun thing to work on too, they really enjoy it. Our music program that we had through, the Oregon Guitar Quartet drew 100 people. So, which is pretty amazing and has, forced me to think a little bit more about how many people can actually fit comfortably and safely on that main floor with all those stacks. So the fire marshal and I have had a little conversation, and he's going to come over just so that in the future, if we do have to turn people away, we feel like it's based on somebody actually looking. We're not so concerned about the weight, it's just the compactness and the numbers, you know. So,
People were sitting on the floor, they were extremely close together, there were kids sitting on parents' laps.
Right.
When we were close together.
Right, well, I remember, you know, we had 63 people for the harp thing in December, and that was just crammed. And so I was like thinking 100, oh my gosh, how did 100 people even fit in there? You know, so it really led me to like go, you know, this is fantastic, but, you know, we need to control the situation a little bit more. And so what would the best setup be? What does staff need to support them in like making this the best environment for, you know, everybody? And so, so we're rethinking some of those things, and not like we're not going to have those guys come, but you know, maybe next year if we think we're going to get that many, maybe we'll book them over at the senior center or something. I mean, that's how we have to think, you know. So it's just really, it's great to have this problem. It's fantastic to have this problem to think about it.
And in fact, one of the ladies that was there in the audience said, "Why didn't they rent a hall?" I said, "Because they're having money."
The thing is, we had no idea 100 people would show up. I mean, we just did not have a clue. I didn't think, well, apparently now we know that, you know. And I was like, oh, this will be so nice. 30 people, 50 people will come. How lovely. And
it was lovely, though.
Yeah, it was really, really good.
Has the adult programming attendance, I'm sure programs are different, but has that changed? I'm wondering if more adults want to come to the Carnegie Center, or are those numbers about the same as when we were at Danielson?
When we used to have the adult programming at Danielson's, we were excited if we got 30 people.
So something about this maybe.
This location is, I think, appealing to a lot of people.
Well, you've got all those Carnegie concerts over the years, everybody thinks.
Right, they do think of that as music, yeah.
For that kind of thing.
And it's really nice, the music ones, I mean, people bring their kids, you know, it's all ages, it's really lovely.
But children has gone down. I'm surprised that would have gone down so much.
Well, that's in the summer reading program only. We do story time down in the basement, and it's just not that great of, you know, it's just not that fun of an environment. Of course, Danielson's in the corner wasn't that great either, so I don't know.
It wasn't very fucking fine, though.
Maybe you're shopping, you know, parents bringing children that are shopping and doing
Yeah,
things.
well, exactly. And you know, I mean, I know a lot of people are going to Westland Library, and I wouldn't be surprised at all if they're going to the Westland Storytime. If they're using that library, then they're probably using other services provided by, you know, that library, so.
We have to think too of the adult is we haven't had it in such a long time. People are excited, and then the fact with the recession is that people like to have free entertainment.
We did, speaking of children though, we did just make a commitment to continue our story times during the summer. You know, usually we at least drop one of them off or something because we have the program. Well, those programs are never on the same day as story times anyway. And we just thought, you know, it's the one thing that even if only a few people come, we can provide for like really, you know, no sweat off of our back. And, you know, families with like really young kids, summers, like it's the same schedule for them. They probably just keep it consistent, you know.
My other one is this, but it's, I know that they were going off at this time, there's usually UK classes going on, and consideration of things at the time when those story times were offered. You know, I know in Malta they'll do, you know, a Friday at 3 o'clock, sort of, we try not to, instead of hitting people during that time, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or, you know, Head Start or UK class time, that it breaks from that.
Maybe that's what we could do for the summer.
I don't know if like up to the still at one time, and maybe now they have one weekend.
Yeah.
One.
And that would be after moms who were pushing shutters and,
Thanks for that input. Let's see, I wanted to talk about, what I have an offer yours. I actually have a director report that's all written out for you guys. Yeah.
Processing.
You probably, let's see what it does. Yeah, just, Lucky Day keeps going on and that kind of, like, good, cool.
No, he'd also stopped by last year. We were starting to leave.
Oh, that's right. Thank you for reminding. We
Yeah,
really
I
dropped
know,
off,
we're-
yeah, exactly. So, I just brought
And,
a couple of brochures that we've done recently that I'll pass out. One of them is, in response to Blue Heron closing, I had our reference librarian put together all of our, job search-related, resources in one place so that, I know they're getting some assistance from agencies right now, but we will be here after those agencies are gone and they can use us for free, and I really wanted to consolidate that. And we have a little job search-related display at the library as well. So, that's what we can do. And then the other one is the behavior brochure that you guys approved of the behavior policy. And I wanted to have something that we could hand out if we needed to. It's not like we hand this out all the time or anything, or even like really we hand it out at all. But it's sitting there on the information desk. And the reason this came up finally and I decided to print these off was that we had some complaints about cell phone usage in the library, and we decided to go ahead and just put up some very polite, pleasant requests to be courteous. Not like, I'm going to bang this over your head and I'm going to shoot you if you use your cell phone in here. But I realized that where we refer to that, the authority for, asking people to not use their cell phone comes from the behavior policy. So I thought it would behoove us to have some copies of some flyers around.
So the cell phone policy, is that number 19, we're just don't disturb others, but you can
I think
do
it's listed specifically in there, but
somewhere
Cell
else.
phones
Yeah.
on 19.
on 19 in there.
My experience is that they just ignore it.
They do ignore it, but
They're right in front of them.
it gives you, at least it gives you something that you feel like it backs you up if you need to go talk to somebody at all. Basically that's what it turns into. The other thing that I really wanted to tell you guys about, go ahead.
Number 11,
Yeah, what is it?
about bicycles, roller skates in or on library premises. People can't use it in library park?
That's for if they brought it down the ramp,
Oh, okay.
and we would say, please, let's not see it here, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
Yeah, no, of course they can use bikes in library park. Good question, good clarification. We just added 2 more internet computers to the reference room, and we brought back our carols that we had up at Danielson's. And we were trying to figure out a way to add more computers in, and we really didn't have space on the tables that were there, so one of our volunteers, Dan O'Connor, who I've talked about before, magnificent volunteer, he had saved those for us because he was just sure we would need this in the future. And he's got this big barn out in the country or something, I don't know. He's got all this space, so he just volunteered to do that. Well, when we measured them, when we were considering moving them back in, they were too wide in order to fit 4 across. And if we couldn't fit 4 across, then we might as well just stick with the tables that we had, right? So he offered to cut them down in size because not only would it help us out, but it meant he could get the new saw that he's always wanted. So he did this fabulous job of cutting down the carols so that we could fit 2 rows of 4 across. And now what we have there is 6 internet terminals, 2 public access catalogs, and then at the stand-up table that's in the reference room, we have 1 15-minute express internet as well. So that really greatly increased our, numbers of, so we're up to 7, and we had 10 at the Hilltop. So I feel like for this space, that's pretty good, that's pretty good. And now we have 1 more catalog on the main floor, we have 3 total. And so, that's pretty good. Let's see what else. So, tomorrow night we have a book club, how to read a book for book club events. Next week on St. Patrick's Day, we have Innisfree coming, which will probably be our test of how many people can cram in the library. And I'll be gone all next week, so, yeah, I don't have to worry about it. Karen will be here in April, and I was just talking to our fearless reporter, Raymond, whatever his name is. Yeah, Rendelman. He was very interested in, he had talked to Karen earlier about the history of the Carnegie, and he was just fascinated by it. So, when we do Karen's program, it will be National Library Week, so we're kind of combining it with the theme of create your own story at your library, which is the ALA theme. And we're going to ask people to relate their Carnegie memories to us, and maybe some that night and open whatever. And then also, like, we're going to do a form so that they can actually write it down and send it back to us and do it online, whatever. But I'm hoping to get enough that we can actually create a little booklet out of it and then hand that out. Because when we moved in there, everybody said, I remember when. And it really, it's just was so special. Those memories are so special to people that I would love to document them in some way. So that's our hope, and tie into the National Library Week as well. And then Jackie is going to do sustainability and green program in May. And we just learned that John Salisbury probably won't be able to do a historic program on John McLaughlin because he did get a parts job, and he'll be moving north.
Let's skip Jane.
Oh, and yeah, the author, Jane. Sure. So tomorrow night when we do How to Read a Book for Book Club, that's kind of our kickoff event for the community-wide read. And so that people can like kind of think about this stuff as they're reading our book for community-wide read. And then the author is Jane Kirkpatrick, and the book is all together in one place. And so she'll be back in about 6 weeks. So that's kind of a nice period of time, length of time.
Does the library have a book sponsored book group?
No, you don't. We will have 30 copies available tomorrow night, and we will be handing out patron appreciation cards. You know, last year we had the anniversary cards. If you pass these around, please take one. And this is like $5 towards fines or rentals. I know, it looks like somebody is excited about doing this. And so we will start handing those out tomorrow night, and we'll hand those out through April 28th when Jane comes, but there's no expiration date on it. They're good for whenever, you know. Yeah, so what? Well, yeah, so we'll punch them, and we'll also note in your record what you use it for, or, you know, how much. And then, you know, because there's $5 limit on each card, so.
What programs are you having then associated?
We're not.
No.
No, we're not. We're not like Lake Oswego, yeah. And 32 programs. Man, is that impressive. Maybe next year we can like start, we're just trying to like even establish a tradition of having a community-wide program or read. And I was thinking like next year that would be one of the things we could think about when we choose a title. You know, think about what maybe a couple related programs or something, nothing too exciting, nothing too fancy, so that we can handle it. You know what I mean? But I mean, I know Lake Oswego has a whole committee and everything, and
well, I just no limit, but I have asked at your library, and that's before you move to these to the Carnegie, but I've asked for a book group before. You know, that's something that's pretty easy to do. Maybe not when you don't have space.
You know, I had asked people how interested they are, and I only got like 2 people that said they joined. So, you know, I need to have a little bit more of a groundswell before I, you know.
Then you get people. I was the first person to start from at Lake Oswego. Now there are a number of them. Yeah, you know, the waiting list, people.
Well, that's cool. Maybe you could like to volunteer to help me start one, and then we could see.
We had a meeting.
I think that would be really fun.
And we discussed what we're going to do, and we could get his hand.
It might be good to bring it up on the How to Read for a Book Club. The attendees that have a sign-up sheet or have a discussion, because we're having it tomorrow night.
Okay, so anyway, that's essentially my reports, because we have other things to talk about here. Goodness knows.
Should we go on to library facility planning?
Yeah, that's right.
Because we really need to talk about it.
Well, how much can we talk about right now?
Well, the only thing I was thinking is that what we might want to talk about is some field trips. so we can have some concept or shared concepts of libraries. I know I think I'm the only one here that went on the jaunt to Lebanon and Albany.
No.
Yeah, that's right. You went on your own vehicle. You didn't ride with me.
I remember I left it.
Yes, you did. You levitated. But anyhow, which libraries in the area do you think would be the most helpful for us to coordinate some carpools and some trips?
I think Tualatin would be an excellent library for people to see because it's about the right size, you know, and it's one level, and it's close. I've also never been to Estacada, and I've heard that's wonderfully.
It is.
Wonderful.
It's very nice.
We could do private.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think it's good to see more than, you know, for all of you guys to see more than one library. And certainly, obviously, you've been to other libraries. That's, you know.
Well, Wilsonville is a nice one-story spread out with community room too.
Wilsonville's great. I'm happy to organize something and figure it out. I don't expect that everybody will be able to go to everything, you know. So, I don't know how to organize this as far as like. Do it separately.
How about, I can't remember, but Wilsonville, notice their children's section, or, you know, points that you thought were maybe more.
Yeah, they're Wilsonville. They have a really nice little outside patio right next to the children's section. It's really nice.
Well, do we want to focus on those three, and we'll try and get to those in the next 2 months or something, and everybody who can go, and.
I would think Wilsonville and Tualatin could be done in one trip because they're the same direction, whereas Estacada is kind of totally the other
Would
direction.
knowing the building size make a difference as to where you want to go? Which would be more appropriate?
In our building site.
Yeah, what libraries would be missing?
Well.
I don't think we'll be that far along.
We would be waiting a while, if that's the case. I mean, I just don't think there's any reason to this doesn't need to be this big hurry up and let's do it, but there's no reason not to start looking at libraries either.
I'm making a general assumption that most people have been to West Lynn or some of the other close by local ones.
I've been, but I haven't looked with the eyes or.
Because West Lynn,
Works and.
the way they renovated and expanded was pretty good.
I can't hear you, Laura.
I hate the stairs at West Lynn, in the library for navigating with the child in and out of both of the books.
I don't like the way they have the 2 stories at the same reason. When you're on either one of the floors, it's good. It's
Well, that's what Becca was trying to tell us, is that once you have to navigate more than one level, you run into problems no matter what. It takes up your space, you know, and there's a lot of people who are not comfortable with certain accesses, certain modes.
Well, and I think that would be one reason for us to look at West Lynn.
But you need restroom facilities at both levels, so it's another.
You know what? That's not right. In Seattle Public Library, they do not have restrooms on every single floor. In fact, you will be hard pressed to find them. I can tell you.
There's reasons.
But
Yeah, well, I'm sure, but you know, when you're just, you know, off the tourists coming in looking for or using
Especially some of the
beautiful
older
buildings,
ones.
it's kind of like,
It's really bad.
that's such an interesting library. I told you before, it was the other day it opened. Even I went out sure.
yeah, we went just recently, and it's interesting, but, I would just like to pledge to you that I would like, well, in my personal opinion, could we have something a little warmer than the Seattle Public Library?
It's not very warm.
You know, yeah. And what I think would suit Oregon City a little bit more, like all the feedback we get over the kind of the living room idea there at the Carnegie, you know, that's what people like. Let's do that. The Seattle Public Library has nothing of that.
I think one of the things for us to remember is that we're building, in effect, a suburban library, not an urban library. And when you go into any of the big urban libraries, especially those that are in a downtown and they have a lot of trouble with transients and homeless, your design has to be very different because librarians don't really like to catch people washing their clothes in the bathroom.
Tell me about it. Just what I did
And other things. Yeah.
Well, that's nothing compared to what other things are.
Is downtown space sort of renovating something downtown, is that kind of off the table, in the sense that Excel is a really nice example of though it's much smaller, but using something that is urban living into one space, so, I mean, like, is that something that we're not thinking about?
Remember, the city does own a lot downtown. I can take a freight ticket. And we could consider, so that's what you would end up with, is a very urban looking library in that space, because, you know, you have to be very condensed and fit into that space. But you're also right next to the bus station, and, well, you're also in the flood zone. So there's lots of things to consider, so it's not completely off the table or anything, but, you know, it's not on the top of the list of what everybody wanted to look at initially anyway. Yeah. So nothing's off the list yet. Okay, so I'll, try and wrangle you guys into at least 1 or 2 library visits. How's that?
A quick question, Tualatin, is that a two-story library?
It's 1 story.
Okay, it's 1 story.
Yeah.
It also, did they design the Tualatin? Because they referenced Alameda.
They did not design Tualatin. I'd like you to see some places they didn't design. You know, them doing this work does not mean they have to be our architect or anything, yeah.
Understood.
Yeah.
It was great.
Oh, yeah. We're really fortunate in that we have some very, very experienced architectural firms, library experienced architectural firms in the Portland area. At least 4 that I can think of. You know, and that doesn't mean other firms haven't done libraries. I think that, you know, I'm gonna be shooting for somebody who's done libraries, just because I think that with the money that we have to spend, we want to make sure that their experience comes to bear on our building, and we really are as efficient as possible. But there's several other good ones that you'd be interested to see their building in Beaverton and Multnomah County libraries. They're really.
Is Walton a circular building?
It's something like that.
It looks like it from the outside.
It's laid out in a starburst thing.
So like a bicycle wheel or something.
Yeah, like a wagon wheel. Exactly. Thank you.
Wagon wheel.
Shall we move on a little bit, because you have on the screen, or you can put up on the screen, frequently asked questions about progress on the new library building.
What about community meeting?
Oh, yes.
Library
You're right.
We do need to think about that. We don't need to do it before we have our next meeting with Matt and Becca.
Mm-hmm.
And so,
do you have a proposal on that?
No.
Okay.
Well, I don't. I was kind of thinking that, and I think it's going to depend on the information we get back from some of these proposals. You know, I mean, a lot of places have community meetings on their site selection. They talked about Hillsdale. I happen to know that that was like just a nightmare. They had so much community input that it just turned into a huge nightmare. And so I think that, you know, you need to get input but balance it so that the process keeps moving along. So I think we kind of need to think about it. And, you know, I think an open house or something would be great once we have maybe a lot more information and we know for sure what our top 5 things are, and we also know that having an open meeting wouldn't maybe compromise some of the negotiations. See, that's where it starts getting really tricky on the open meetings, you know, thing. So I think there's more to discuss there and more advice that we need. But
Thank you.
I don't know. Well, maybe let's meet with those guys and see where we are on the 28th.
That would be great, but we have to think about, because of the big empty hole called summer, do we want to do it in June, do we want to do it in September, October, you know, that's, because if it's June, it's quite a rush.
Right. Yeah, I know.
Oh, I don't
So
think
we'll just carry that, we'll carry this item forward.
Okay.
So the FAQs, we have a lot of people asking my staff, you know, where are we right now? So I put these together. The city manager has looked at them, Linda's looked at them. I'll have my staff look at them. But this is just to keep people posted on what's going on without getting too far into complicated issues like elections and bonds. So, I just thought I'd share them with you guys. I've been, this is like fourth in the series of FAQs or something. We had some for each one, and you know what? They're great. They are really great. I have found that this is a really great tool to communicate with the public. People really seem, and my staff, it makes them a lot handier if they can just
And this will be on the website.
oh yeah, it would be on the website once you decide that this is how we want to go.
The staff probably can't give any opinions to people when they ask them about it.
Yeah, they do.
They do.
Mostly they're asked, where's the library going to go? And then the staff will say, oh, well, we don't know that yet because we're in the process of just, making that decision. And then they say, well, a lot of people tell us that they like it right here, and a lot of people tell us that they like Hilltop, and then we start get into a conversation about it, and that's fine, as long as it's somewhat accurate, That's what I'm overhearing, and I'm going, oh, I can't believe they just said that. Just because it's not always accurate. So this helps my staff too know what's really going on to the point of what we can talk about anyway. So
On the question, why is it taking so long? You allude in there that you have to have a vote. Is there some way that it can be worded
sure
that it does not appear like it's going to increase their taxes? Because, of course, we don't know that yet.
I can rewrite that somehow.
Because that's going to be probably the major issue in the campaign, is to convince people to vote yes on something that possibly is not going to have to increase any of their taxes.
So helping them understand that is going to be a challenge.
Well, yeah, that's right. I don't know how to word it.
Well, and I don't even really want to get that far into that part just yet.
Well, maybe we don't want to maybe you don't want to put in the sentence we learned that we have to get voters' approval to take on the debt. Just delete it.
Yeah,
I think that would be better.
Because everybody will be assuming that we're going to have to do a bond. And so later on we can say, oh, good. The good news is we may not have to do a bond, just a loan.
Well, but those are called bonds.
I know.
Right.
But
That's the problem.
Just on the next line, how do they know the meaning?
How do they know what?
It says you can call it right to me anytime.
Oh, yeah, I'll put my name in there.
Yeah, library directing.
Thank you. See, this is why I have to take a look at them. Good catch, very good catch. Okay, we want to go into public input? Okay. So I think I sent this to you guys too. No? I have any copies of it.
patron input, we can get on the screen.
Yes,
Yeah.
it's on the screen.
Okay. So this is just a brief spreadsheet of what. Oh, can I have one copy of that? Of what people have been telling us they want.
I'll press that. Oh, you just click on it.
You know, this is
I missed the spot.
Property. They don't know about the second.
There, a
yeah,
little bit.
because,
One more
well,
again.
people know it
Yeah,
exists.
yeah,
People know it exists.
Well, I
That
can
doesn't
read
mean
it.
they know we were looking at it, but you know.
The old, excuse me, using the technology.
I think I haven't even enough copies. But...
I can pass mine out.
Well, I actually got it in small print on my screen.
Well, first of all, it's not that many responses, but it's more than I thought we'd get. And actually, they're still coming in because we still have it set up.
Those little, you know, I.
Oh, I know.
last night,
Yeah?
And I was looking, I thought, yeah, I want to see how they're asking. And I thought it would be difficult because
But I
it's
can
like,
read
well,
it.
where do you want it?
As
It
long as
would
I
have
leave
been
that.
helpful for me if
Yeah.
I had a list.
I know, but I'm not ready. I wasn't ready to do that yet.
It would have been a lot easier to make a
Sure.
response to just look at
And we
it.
could do that later. But I just mostly I wanted to see kind of general areas of town and stuff.
Yeah, that's
You know, it does give you like a very clear indication that actually somewhere on the hilltop would be the preferred space.
Yes.
Museum of the Oregon Territory, and that's the building down there that Clackamas County Historical Society is in.
I'm surprised the many parties that are so low.
is so low.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there aren't that many people that do this.
It's considered that these were given in by people who were in the Carnegie Center.
I look at Hilltop, Dennis's, Red Soils, Walmart as one
I
area.
And
did.
Savage
It was
and
like
just-
less than a quarter, just to keep it there. I thought it'd be higher than that.
And also because, I was on the task force for the Carnegie Center, at those meetings, the library at Carnegie Center was off the charts.
Well, the people who do want it at the Carnegie really want it at the Carnegie. I didn't bring the, collated responses that I'm getting on these things, but I'm documenting all of those, and I can send them to you by email. Well, that would be a good thing to do. And they're very interesting. They're extremely interesting. So, a lot of the Carnegie people are like, why would you ever consider anywhere else but here? Essentially, that's what they think. And which is,
Explanation if we jump.
right. But yeah, I'll send you those. You'll find them very interesting. And some people are so nice. They write such nice things, and other people are just. Oh, this is to get their opinions, and they've been giving their opinions about a lot of things, not just this. Let me tell you. I know it. It's great. I mean, honestly, it's awesome to get public input. You've got to ask the library users. Okay, shall we move on to service responses? Okay. So, did I send you this?
No?
We had that service response from last meeting.
Yeah, but I have a collation of some. I'm taking so many copies I thought I had this. There's a document. You see it?
It's on here.
Library responses to.
You don't need to waste paper if you see it here.
Yeah, I just make a couple copies for, in case actually other people come. You never do, but you never know. I want copies in case somebody comes up. So, this is the staff response, and the ones that are bolded are the top ones, which is connect to the create non-readers, connect to the online world, stimulate imagination, satisfy curiosity, and visit a comfortable place. And then I asked them afterwards, well, if you could have a sixth one, what would it be? And it was kind of all over the map. Succeed in school, make career choices, get fast facts, discover your roots. I was kind of surprised Discover Your Roots didn't take a little bit higher thing there, because I thought a lot of people came to our library to use, the microfilm and all that stuff.
This is staff input based on their own opinions or what they've been asked by patrons?
Based on their own opinions, but I mean, I keep trying to remind them that it's not about them, it's organizations.
Okay.
But, I mean, obviously there are library workers who have some opinions about what a library should be in the community as well. So that's the thing, it's like, there's things that all libraries should be, but each community has its own flavor of which, of those things are the most important in that library, and that can shift over time as well. So this was just staff response. This is something to keep in mind. Their opinion and your opinions on this as we go into deciding what our spaces are and what our spaces look like. Do we emphasize the community room and de-emphasize something else because we can only build a 20,000 square feet and we think we should be able to accommodate 100 people? This is the kind of information that I'm hoping will help inform us, as we go along. So that's just an update and a report on that.
I want to comment on Discover Your Roots. Way big drop at Lake Oswego about use of the genealogy collection, which was a major thing because so many people get it online now.
Oh.
Or do a lot more.
Ancestry.com or whatever.
Yeah, do a lot more of their work online, so actually people that are using it, there's still some, but not anywhere near 5 or 10 years ago.
And as one who does make use of what's there and the microfilm machine, can you get the microfilm machine moved away from the natural light source?
I'm not sure we can. I'm not sure where else we put it. But let me check that with. I know it's a problem.
Yeah, really, especially on the rare day that the sun actually comes out, but. And when we're designing a new library, that's the one advantage of Daniels, was the dark corner for those.
That's probably perfect. It's probably the one thing it was
Perfect for that space.
Exactly. Okay, budget. Now, I do have a budget to hand out, and I, know that you guys don't have any time to think about this, but this is still somewhat, draft. This is, David Wimmer and I have worked on this with Linda and everything. Okay, hold on. No. Oh, no. So, earlier when you were sitting next to me at the other meeting. Well, this is this is the revenue projection, which is will be very helpful for you guys. Problem is, I don't see a copy of the expenditure. Is it right? What is, I want to share with you guys, is the 2010-11 estimated final projections. The district amount, this is the as of today estimate by Joanna, our network person, that we will receive $1,734,413. That is off by $53,000 from the projection we got this time last year.
Less, more.
Less.
Oh, it is.
It's 50, yeah, it's quite a bit less than what we got.
Is that because of the decreased tax revenues from decreased property?
Collection rates.
Uncollected, yeah.
And so actually you can see that figure was in the revised, adopted 2010, 2011, we were supposed to get 1787. So that's 53, right?
Okay.
Yeah. So that's gone down. As you scan down the library fees and what we've been collecting, we knew that would drop, and it has, but it's not even really living up to my projections. So that's at 30, I estimate at 37,300 for the year. So down at the bottom, our total will be 177,291.3 income revenue for this year. That, sorry I don't have the expenditure sheet. We still have a lot of leftover money because we're not paying
Why should I say that on TV?
This is the money that's going to help us proceed with the work that we need to do before we can build the building. So there's a nice cushion there for that.
And there's charges for every consultant you bring in every
Oh,
time.
yeah. You know,
Is it charged for every time the consultants come to
we're really
consult?
fortunate that we have this because otherwise we would have to be thinking about doing something
A fundraiser.
before we even could like start talking about certain things, you know? So anyway, that's this year, and then next year, the estimate for what we're gonna get is the 1775511. And then I've gone down and estimated that income as well. The reason the bottom figure is so very huge, that includes rollover, from 2 years. That 671, that's left over from 2 years, okay? Last year and this year, 2 years of business. So that's what we've not spent those 2 years. So, so we're in good shape for next year. What we're basically doing with our budget is we're keeping certain things in place so that we always have place markers for materials. It's one of the major things that we always want to kind of like, even though we can't spend it all because we don't have room for it, we don't even want to think about reducing that, you know, even though that money's just carried over. It's just like, we want to always make sure we have materials, place markers in place. Staffing is not changing a lot, except to the degree that we continue to look at what we need in this building, what we need in the future building, efficiencies, maybe doing pre-processing, and how does that change our staffing model, all that kind of thing starts factoring in.
Can I ask a question about this?
Yeah.
This budget's gonna go into effect when?
This would be July 1.
And has there been any citizen review of this budget whatsoever besides what's going on right now?
Still, it goes to the budget committee.
That's my question.
This isn't done, it's part of the package.
Oh, and that's April 26th, it goes to the committee.
So this budget will go to the budget committee. There's a budget committee committee to review. Is there a subcommittee of the budget committee?
Bigly book.
No, I don't know that there's a subcommittee that looks specifically at.
But they get time to study the big, huge book.
I mean, what happens is that, I sit down with David Fraser this week, and we look at, mission goals, and we make sure there's money in our budget that's going towards mission goals, which is build a new library. And we make sure that there's money set aside to like help us achieve those tasks.
And this is the budget strictly from the expenditure, the receipt and expenditure of district money.
Money that we get from the county though is put into the city, for capital improvements is put into a completely different fund.
Right.
Yeah, that's separate.
Yeah, that's in a separate
Well,
fund.
this includes library income that we make on fines and fees. You know, that does include that right now. So it's not an awful lot, but.
The money you get from a county is no longer related to circulation, is it?
That's right.
That's good.
Related to a service area size. So right now we're one of the biggest.
And the city is doing $200,000 into a
Yeah, and
campaign.
it's not exactly 200,000, but it will it's increased at 3% every year, and it will go above 200,000 here pretty soon. So like right now we have $394,000 set aside. So that's all for capital improvements too, that if we, get to that point, that's available.
Are we going to see the actual, maybe an executive copy or an executive summary of a budget which will show expenses?
Absolutely. I'm so sorry I don't have a copy of it. I can email it to you, and then we can talk about it again at our next meeting, because it won't be adopted by anybody until after our next,
I think what I'd be interested in really looking at is, what are we spending now? What are we projecting to spend in a 20,000 square foot library? And is there a big disconnect between what we're ramping up in expenses and what we realistically can afford at some point a year down the road or two years down the road?
There's stuff in front of your place, Bill.
What are you looking at?
There's
Lots of
fire.
red and blue lights over here.
Yeah.
It's like Washington and.
Phil, do I need to hit the panic button?
They're already there, so no. We really do need to talk about that, because if we were to take on that service, I mean, we would be guaranteeing that we could afford to pay that. And what what I think we could cover would be the $200,000 that we get from the city, plus $300,000 of operating funds, making a $500,000 payment per year, which, translates to like a $7 million loan situation over 15 to 17 years, depending on your interest rate and all that stuff. There's lots of variables in there. You end up paying like $7 million in interest as well on something like that over that period of time. So, So that's kind of, the figure that I had in my head that we could safely afford. But, and we'd have to, of course, prove that to any bank which underwrites that loan, but.
What's your rough estimate right now in cost per square foot?
Oh, of the new building?
Yeah.
Oh, you mean like the building itself?
Mm-hmm. When we go to build a building.
They say about 200, at least 200 square feet, dollars a square foot. Because,
$200.
yeah. So, well, except that doesn't make sense because Hannah told me that $8 million should build a 20,000 square foot building.
But that is the land purchase.
And that's got some money set aside for land. But no, I'll have to talk to him again.
Well, we'll have a chance to talk to them on the 28th.
Very well.
I would like to see the budget on the next agenda to talk about it again.
Your next item on the agenda is brochures. Is that
We already reviewed
passed?
it. Yeah, we did that.
We already did that. Friends of Oregon City Library report.
Hi, we just had our meeting today, and we looked at our brochures, because we're getting into the brochure out, and reviewed that, and it's looking good. We also have planned staff and volunteer appreciation in April, and Jan brought us numbers, and the bookstore income was just over $4,000, but the net income for the Friends for the month of February was $84.60. And our balance sheet of our total liabilities and equity at the end of February was $104,815.06. And we didn't have a report of volunteer hours. Those who have seen that in the past.
We had 278 volunteer hours provided in the bookstore. And if you look at those are reported and included in the volunteer hours in Mo's reports now.
The Friends volunteer hours, the Friends of the Library, those hours are all from the bookstore, and then the library has a different volunteer.
We turned in our volunteer hours to the library, and so it's included in their total. But we had 278. We had 13 volunteers this month that were active that provided some time. Several new ones.
Thank you.
And we are starting to recruit volunteers for the farmers markets, so if anybody wants to spend some time on Saturdays, please contact, you can contact me, or I'll give your name to Carl. Carl Clapp is coordinating the farmers market this year. And the farmers market starts on May 7th. Library Foundation report. We met.
We met, I forgot my notes, so
We'll meet again.
Which I believe is on the 23rd, right?
Yes.
Yes, we're meeting again, and we
At
get
what time?
6.
6 at Hagen's.
And Chris is doing a good job. He's
Excellent.
That is gonna be a 501c3.
We are a 501c3. We already are. In effect, we have been in business for 2 years, and our taxes, we have to file our little form to the feds, and that's in the hands of the accountant at the moment. Of course, we didn't have that much income or anything, but we're kind of just going slowly along, but there really isn't anything to try and sell or raise money on yet, so we're just trying to get the organization in place. Okay. New business, library board member reports. Does anyone have something to report that they've been involved in that would affect the library?
I got an e-reader for Christmas. And one of Mo's staff members, actually several tried, but one of them finally figured out the thing to solve the thing. So I could finally get some books down from the library. And it's a wonderful thing now, but it was a terrible thing before. But wow, if you can train your folks for more of that kind of stuff, that would be great.
A couple people who are like really good at it, they're the in-house experts.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
I wish it wasn't so quirky, I wish it wasn't this difficult.
Well,
you
it's,
know?
the way I saw it, it's called the old ancient beta, what was it? EHS, which one's gonna win out, you know, and Kindle isn't the same as Nook, which isn't the same as Pan Digital, which isn't the same as, you name it, so.
Well, with Kindle, you can't even try.
So, but anyway, it's good.
Thank you, thank you.
Solving the problem.
Okay.
Carrie, I went to a meeting at the county building last week about the Meyer Memorial Trust. Probably more as a representative of the Library Foundation, and had some good ideas and some context and things, and shared them both with Mo and Krista. So.
And we have all agreed then that the next meeting date will actually be on March 28th at 5 o'clock, location to be announced. And do I hear a motion for adjournment?
We're not gonna have one on the 13th,
No, we are.
We are.
13th and the 20th.
So the next regular meeting is actually on the 14th.
So the 13th, that's the 13th of April. The special meeting is March 28th.
Yeah, okay.
I would make an assumption that we will be having several of the special meetings.
Irregular?
Regular
meetings, yeah.
Okay. And did I hear a move to adjourn?
Yes.
Accepted. Need to vote on adjournment.
First, second, third, ninth.